In a week and a half, it'll be 3 years exactly since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, a bloody war of aggression. And Donald Trump now says he's going to have talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, the war criminal, probably in Saudi Arabia, to cut a deal to make peace.
And I think we're on the way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace, and President Zelensky wants peace, and I want peace. I just want to see people stop getting killed.
Trump's new defense secretary says, well, for a start, that peace deal includes Ukraine forgetting about getting back Crimea, which Russia initially took 11 years ago. Nor will Ukraine be allowed to join NATO for its self-defense. There's talk about peacekeeping troops instead. The Ukrainian president tried to sound upbeat.
And President Trump informed me of what Putin had told him. We believe that America's strength is enough to push Russia and Putin to peace together with us, together with all our partners.
Now, of course, I'm frightened that Trump will sell out Ukraine, and Europe will sure complain about that. But here's what I don't get, you see. Ukraine is mostly a European problem. I know it's also in America's interest to stop this invasion and send China a warning. I got that. But Europe, why does Europe then look to the US to do the heavy lifting here? Europe is 9 times richer than Russia, depending how you measure wealth, and has many more people. So why is it so weak? Why can't it do this on its own? Joining me from London each week is Patrick Christie, star presenter of GB News. Patrick, before I get to what I really want to discuss, an absolute scandal in your country, why is Europe so weak? Always asking the US to come to its defence and then whinging about US power.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm inclined to agree with you, Andrew. And we have to cast our minds back, don't we, to when this latest round of the Ukraine war initially started. And to be fair, Boris Johnson, Great Britain, we were sending huge amounts of money and huge amounts of military equipment when the Germans, for example, who, by the way, at the time, were almost totally reliant on Russian oil and gas, just sent the Ukrainians a few helmets to defend themselves, despite them being much closer to the actual action than me here on the island of Great Britain. But we have stripped back our army so much now that you could fit Britain's entire standing army into Manchester United's Old Trafford football stadium, which is obviously a problem. Just in terms of what's going on now, though, you know, the British public and the taxpayer are paying at least £3 billion a year, every single year, quotes, for as long as it takes in order to help Volodymyr Zelensky and Ukraine. But actually, it's much more than that in reality, because we often hear about another 50 million quid here or another £1 billion there as well. We have suffered dramatically the price of our fuel, our electricity, our goods in our supermarkets as a consequence of this war in Ukraine. And that was fair enough for a period of time, because it was an illegal invasion. And as you rightly said, Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. However, we have to be realistic about the situation now and think, is Ukraine going to get the territory back that it had in 11 years ago? Probably not. Are we going to continue to see a relentless loss of life, both civilian and in terms of conscripts on both sides of this? Well, yes, we probably are. And at what point does that meat grinder have to stop? And at what point do taxpayers in Britain, here where I am now, and in Europe, have to say, let's try to push for peace in a way where both sides might be able to claim victory? You know, it wasn't so long ago that it looked as though Putin was going to take Kyiv. Well, that's not happening. So the Ukrainians can rightly claim some kind of victory there. Putin obviously can claim that he will have now dominion over territory that shouldn't be his, but will be. So I do hope that we can get some kind of deal here.
Well, you mentioned your army. I mean, Britain's got a population, what is it, nearly 3 times more than ours, and you've got an army that's less than double ours. So something clearly isn't right. But to an amazing story. I thought politicians were in charge of deciding who could come into their country, and any foreigner who was not a citizen had no right to just waltz in. You've now got a court that says, no, that's not so. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, we've got loads of stuff going on here. We have got an immigration judge who has said that now we are basically on the hook to take a load of Gazan refugees. He decided to interpret a scheme initially designed for Ukrainian refugees to also include Palestinians, which was never intended. So that is, frankly, bonkers and could have massive impacts here. We also see a case recently as a Nigerian woman who tried and failed 8 times to secure asylum in Britain has finally been granted asylum because she joined a Nigerian-based terrorism group called the People of Biafra, which is not a prescribed terror group over here, but it does mean that if she went back to Nigeria, she would face inhumane treatment and torture. The judge sided in her favour despite acknowledging that she pretended to be a member of a terror group. It doesn't get much more bonkers than that. A couple of other quick cases. In the last week, Andrew, an Albanian avoided deportation because he said his son doesn't like foreign chicken nuggets. And a Caribbean lady has avoided deportation because her Latvian husband said he didn't like the weather in the Caribbean or the local cuisine. So we now have immigration judges who are siding with these people, despite the British public and the government of the day and the opposition in Parliament all saying that these people should be deported or we shouldn't be allowing a load of Gazan and Palestinian refugees into Britain, especially when neighbouring countries won't take them. So for the real power in Britain at the moment appears to lie in the hands of these unaccountable and unelected immigration judges. And I think we really have to start having a closer look at who they are.
Well, and accepting liars, fake excuses, a Pakistani pedophile that said, my child will be upset if we go back to Pakistan. What about the children he abused in Britain? I mean, for God's sake. I mean, it's just insane. Who's actually running the joint? Oh, Patrick Christys, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.